We've now given you the ability to add custom flags when viewing a partner record. This allows you to quickly add custom flags without having to go into the edit link as you typically do now in order to add the custom flags. So if you'll notice under the Actions tab, you'll see a new link here called Add Flags. If you simply click that, you'll now get the familiar dialog box that shows all of the available custom flags that you have available on your database. As you typically would when editing the partner, you can simply check off the different flags that you want to add to this particular partner record and simply click Select. And as you'll notice, that'll now automatically add those two flags to this partner record. Again, I didn't have to go into the edit link or click Save. Just by simply clicking on the Add Flags link, that automatically added the flags directly to the partner record. We've added additional fields to the annuity module within Bernard. If you go into Manage Annuities from the link under the Action tab, and then click on the individual annuity of interest, you'll notice some additional fields that have been added. And I'll just walk you through those. We've added a checkbox that allows you to check whether the organization is to keep the initial gift. Additionally, some additional fields that have been added under pay frequency are interest rate, annuity income, payout percentage, and reserve amount. Those can be used as your organization business rules dictate, but they are available for you to use on any given annuity. Just simply enter in the values that you're interested in and simply click on Save and Return to save those values on a given annuity. Several changes have been made to the Bequest module, specifically adding additional field elements for additional information that you want to store in a given bequest. If I go into the Manage Bequest section and I click on a given bequest within the system, you'll see that we've added underneath on the General tab, we've added a section called Executrix to allow you to add that information directly on the bequest itself. So from here you can add the name, address, information of a given executor on a given bequest. In addition, we've added a new tab called Beneficiaries. You'll notice that the beneficiary text field that used to be in this section here has now disappeared. Instead, we've removed that in support of adding multiple beneficiaries to a given bequest. So if you did have information in that bequest field, the beneficiary field, that information was automatically moved for you into a new beneficiary record under the beneficiary tab. So you should see that information automatically carried over for you. So from the beneficiary tab, again, you can have any number of beneficiaries added. If I click on Edit for a given beneficiary, you'll see the information I'm able to store on that beneficiary. So I can store name, address information, their phone number, email address. I can also store the percentage or dollar amount that is allocated for that given beneficiary for this particular request. And additionally, if this beneficiary is noted as a family, you can specify yes or no on that. When you've entered the information for this beneficiary, simply click Update, and then that'll be stored for you for future reference. Under the Bequest tab, we've also added some new bequest types to the drop-down here. So if you notice under Bequest Type, some new information that's been added is Trust Charitable Remainder, Trust Charitable Lead, Trust Charitable Unit Trust, Revocable, and Irrevocable. So you can use that information as you so need, which dictate for your business rules. Additionally, we've also added retirement and annuity to that drop-down list. An additional change is that we've allowed you to also now add multiple firms or banks under the Firm Bank tab on a bequest. So before you could simply just enter a single firm or bank. Now you can enter multiple. So here we have a single bank record. If I click Edit on it, you'll see the fields that are available, allow you to specify the name of the bank or firm, address information, your contact data, as well as secondary contact information. Once you've updated that particular record, just like the beneficiaries, you simply click on Update, and now that firm or bank has been saved. Finally, you'll notice that the documents, which used to be on every tab listed down here at the bottom, we moved that to its own specific tab called Documents to be more clear as to where you can find those. Documents are not specific to any given beneficiary, bequest, or firm, so we thought it made more sense that documents are associated with the bequest itself, which constituted having them on their own tab. From a partner's activity section, when viewing either an order or acknowledgement with products attached, you can now decrease the quantity on any item that's within that particular order. So if I go to activity and I just directly go to the order section and I click view on this particular order, you'll notice down at the bottom that I've got two different products ordered. I have a card ordered and I have two different t-shirts ordered. If you notice here, this particular product has a quantity of 10. What I can do is I can decrease. I can't increase, but I can decrease that quantity down simply by going to the details link. If you notice, there's a quantity section here. I can just simply decrease that down. Let's say I inadvertently, instead of 10, they really wanted 8. I can simply just go into the transaction and decrease that down and click Save. Now, by doing that, what that did was also created some additional money that was, I guess, due back to the donor. In that case, the additional revenue, let's say I decreased down and that created a balance due back to the donor of, say, $10, that actually will turn into a gift as opposed to actually doing a refund. That actually goes over to as a gift, a contribution on the given activity record itself. If you notice here, we've got the same product listed twice. So I ordered a quantity of 2 of this Big Apple tea. The reason that they're listed out twice here is because they have attributes associated to them. So in this case here, maybe they want a black t-shirt versus a red t-shirt. Those are going to be listed out separately, so you can adjust the quantity on those individual products as needed as well. It's important to note that in order to have the ability to decrease the quantities on inventory items, or products ordered rather on an order, you must have the right called constituent edit product quantity. So please check with your Bernard administrator to have that right added if that's something that you need functionality or access to. One point of clarification as to why we added this feature to reduce the quantity on any given inventory item that has been ordered. Previously, you could only reduce the quantity on any product on a given transaction if the product has not already been shipped, and you could only do that within Rapid Entry itself. Now you're able to do that even if the order has already been shipped. So typically this is done because of operator error or some other reason. But again, now you can do it even if the order has already been shipped, as opposed to only being able to do it within Rapid Entry before the order has shipped. Changes have been made to the overall refund capability from within Bernard. So for a credit card charge through Bernard, if you need to refund a transaction the same day the charge was made and if the batch is not yet reviewed, Bernard will now update the original transaction amount down to the net value. This will then also ensure that the amount in the acknowledgement file is correctly reflected. Again, this is only possible to make sure the acknowledgement file has the correct values when a refund occurs if the batch has not been reviewed. Hence, the acknowledgments have not been generated or sent out. So for any other transactions, whether it's credit card, cash, or check, we encourage you to always do the refunds now through the Partners Activity section within Bernard, as opposed to creating a negative transaction to indicate a refund through Rapid Entry. That has been the typical way that users have done this in the past, but now if you'll do it through Bernard, through My Bernard, through the on a given transaction itself, you'll notice here under Actions this Return Refund link. If you do it through here, we'll ensure that the refund is tied directly to the original transaction, creating a more complete history. So if you don't have access to the return or refund link, you need to contact support to have that right turned on. This is a privileged right that only certain users within an organization have access to. So again, not everybody can see this link, and it's not something even the Bernard administrators within your organization can see. So you will need to contact support for to be able to have that turned on a per user basis. So again, if you're today creating transactions, negative transactions for a refund in a new batch that would offset an original transaction, Today we highly encourage you to do it through MyBernard, through the activity record itself, and the return refund link, and create the refund there again so that it's tied back to the original transaction. A new query type has been added to Bernard called products. So if you go to new query under query type, you'll now see a new item called products. What this does is this basically will take into account products regardless of where the product was ordered or used. So whether it was a product that was ordered as part of a transaction, or if it was an enclosure, or if it was a product that was part of an acknowledgement process, this now will basically roll all those up so that they become, so that you can query on those products. So I want to see if this particular partner received product X, regardless again whether it was ordered individually or if it happened to be part of acknowledgement or an enclosure within an order. The difference is between what clients were typically using was invoice items, and that was only taken into account products that were ordered. So not taking into account any products that may have been sent because a certain acknowledgement was triggered. By selecting the product's query type, if I go to the query tab, you'll now see a new folder here called products. And from within here, you can then select the different criteria that you're looking for. So show me all products that were back ordered, products of a particular price or a given SKU or have a certain quantity, just various items that you can query on. And then of course on the output tab, you can export those same values as well. Moving over to the appeal module, we've created a new feature that allows you to copy over an existing appeal and creating a new appeal. So if I go to the appeals module and click on new appeal, you'll notice a new button next to the save button called copy. If I simply click on that button, I'll be presented with a dialog to specify the appeal that I want to copy from. So I can search for it by clicking on the binocular icon, or if I know it, I can just simply type it in and tab off of it and it'll find it for me. Once it's found the appeal that you're looking for, you'll notice the different options you have for selecting what items you want to copy over from that appeal. So I can copy over the appeal groupings, the acknowledgments, segment groupings, event information, any inventory associations, and so on. So I can just check off what I want to copy, or I can just copy over everything. Once I click save, that'll then go ahead and save over and create the brand new appeal, giving me a default name for it, which I can now change. You notice it just says copy 8. So that's the default name it created for me. But you'll notice everything's been brought over, all of the groupings, all of the fund information, any acknowledgments that were already created have been brought over, any inventory associations if they were there, again segment groupings or packages and so on have now all been created, and that's been saved for me as well, so I don't necessarily have to click save again, but if I make any additional modifications, then of course I'd want to do that. So a great time-saving feature. So if you've got recurring appeals that occur in month to month and you don't want to have to just recreate everything and make sure you're always specifying the right information or parameters and attributes, just by copying it over is going to save you a lot of time. We've created another new time-saving feature as it relates to appeals when it comes to creating the conditional rules for acknowledgments for a given appeal. So typically, to create rules for a given acknowledgment, you go to the Acknowledgments tab on an appeal, and this is where you would specify those rules for any given acknowledgment. So for example, for no money responses, I want this particular acknowledgment to go out. For acknowledgments, say $500 and over, I want this other acknowledgment to automatically be triggered for a given transaction. So that can be very time consuming if you basically have the same rules within your organization for every single appeal. You don't want to have to be recreating those every single time. So now we've created a new feature that allows you to specify the global acknowledgement rules that can be used on any given appeal. So you'll notice a new link under appeals called Global Acknowledgements. This is where you can specify those rules individually and then simply assign them to the appeal that you want to use them on. So for example, on this particular appeal here, you notice I've got this one rule already defined. If I didn't want to use that one, I can click this checkbox that says Use Global Acknowledgement Rules, and then I'll get a drop-down list that'll show me the different rules that have all been defined. So if I want to use the rule called Activity Attribute, then I can just simply specify that one and click Save, and now that particular rule is what's going to be used for any acknowledgments that need to be triggered for this particular appeal. How you define those global acknowledgement rules is go to the global section under appeals, and here you'll see all the different acknowledgments that have been defined already. So if I just click on a given row, you'll notice the right section is changing, showing me what rules are currently set up. If no conditions have been set, then obviously it'll tell you that so you can create one. If I go to the webinar demo one, again, no rules have been set up now, so of course I need to use or create those before it can be used. So if I simply click on the link here, that'll show you the dialog that you're used to seeing for creating the rules. So what acknowledgement should be triggered, and then of course specifying the individual rules for those. Please refer to your Bernard documentation for more specifics on how to create rules, but it's similar to the way it works today, just whenever you're going to a given appeal and working on the acknowledgement tab for defining the rules. So again, another very useful time-saving feature for whenever you have acknowledgement rules that exist from appeal to appeal. You now can simply create those rules up front and then assign them to any given appeal that you want to use them on. A new option has been created on a given segment within an appeal pool that lets you specify any sort of sorting options you'd like to have whenever specifying the max count on a particular segment. So if I go to the Pools tab of a given appeal and I click on Edit Current Pool, and if I go to any of the given segments, these are exclusionary segments of course, so it wouldn't be applicable, but if I click on segment 4 down here, if you notice next to max nth, you now have an advanced link. So instead of just specifying the count, you now can specify advanced and specify the sorting options. So how this is used is, rather than it being a random sort, let's say I want 10,000 in this particular segment, I can leave it as random. Say I don't really care, which 10,000 you choose. Just pull me a random sampling of 10,000 and have that as my output for this segment. Or I can specify some field that I want to sort on. So let's say that I want to sort on 2014 activity value. So their total giving in 2014 in descending order. That's going to allow me to make sure that the 10,000 I choose are the highest givers potentially that have given in 2014. So it gives you lots of options. So maybe you want to sort it geographically again, or it could be some sort of RFM based field that you want to sort by. So again, just allows you to give an option rather than the typical sort today, which is by random. You now can choose, hey, sort this segment in this particular order first, and then give me my count out based on that. We added a validation check to ensure that you're not creating appeals with the same appeal ID. So now whenever you enter a new appeal ID, or excuse me, you're creating a new appeal and you're specifying the appeal ID for that appeal, we're now going to immediately check to see if that appeal ID already exists. So if I enter, for example, JJA test and I tab off of that, it's checking right now to see if it already exists. In this case it does, so it says the appeal test solicitation already exists, please select a unique appeal ID. So just is there to make sure that you're not creating appeals with the same appeal ID that you've previously used. One thing I want to point out on the Appeal Pools tab is related to the status column on any finalized pools. You'll now see whenever you record a historical pool, something that, let's say that a select was done outside the system, but you want to specify in Bernard that a certain quantity was pulled. Historically, that has been noted here as what's called historical. You'll now see the value there say manual as opposed to historical. Historical will now represent that it is actually historical, meaning that was from the conversion from your previous database provider. So whenever we do a conversion now in the future, anything that we've converted over in terms of old selects, those will just show historical. Any ones that you create on your own will be called manual. And that's done by this record manual pool link right here. Again, it's just a change in terminology. Any ones that you record going forward, you'll see a status of manual. Ones from a data conversion will be noted as historical. Moving on over to the inventory module, I want to point out a couple new values or fields have been added to inventory items themselves. First one I want to point out is that whenever you're setting up a new inventory item, you now have a new field called author that you can specify on a given inventory item. So for example, for our online store tool, and let's say that you have a book and you want to specify an author, that's where that property will now be used. Additionally, you can now also specify a maximum quantity that can be ordered on a given order item, or excuse me, on a given order. What that does is let's say that you specify a maximum of 20, and let's say that an operator tries to enter an order for 21 of a given product, the system Rapid Entry will automatically alert the operator that, hey, the maximum order quantity is 20, and they'll have to adjust down the quantity that they've ordered on that transaction. And then finally, we've also added an attribute that allows you to specify whether a product can be discounted or not. So from within the Rapid Entry, when you're creating a new transaction and you're ordering a specific product, you have the option today to allow it to be discounted, but this will force that something can or cannot be allowed to be discounted. The default for this is to always allow discounts. So if you don't want this product to be discounted, you simply uncheck that and the operator will not have the ability to specify a discount. If you're taking advantage of Bernard's RDD or Plain Giving module, we've added a new feature that allows a particular RDD or Plain Giving officer to be notified when any changes occur to a particular partner or donor record that they've been assigned to. So if any change occurs on that particular donor, they'll receive an email that'll look something similar to this. So we'll give you a full change summary, which donor was changed, their donor ID, who modified the particular donor record, as well as which properties were modified. So to show you exactly what field was changed from the changed on the donor record, given an original value, and what the new value is. So very useful if you're monitoring and doing donor cultivation and you want to know if any changes are occurring on particular donors that you're cultivating. You'll certainly be notified in the event that occurs. Moving over to the batching module in Bernard, we've added a new feature whenever you're reviewing batches that's going to be an indicator to let you know if potentially acknowledgments for given transactions or inter transactions possibly have been missed. So if you go to batching and then batches for review, you'll see a new column here called acts missed, which means acknowledgments missed. So if I scroll down here, that'll show me a count on this particular batch. For example, it says there's one transaction within this batch that possibly did not have an acknowledgment triggered. The reasons that acknowledgment may be missed could be that no conditional rules were defined and possibly no manual response was selected. Therefore, an acknowledgment may not be triggered for that given donor. So if we click on the link here, that's going to give you a pop-up window that's going to show you the particular appeals that did not have an acknowledgement assigned to it, either manually selected or, again, any conditional rules that have been established. So very great feature for auditing to make sure that every transaction that you're entering, that acknowledgments are being triggered for all the transactions within a given batch. The options available from the Fulfillment Navigation tab have changed to more accurately reflect the functions of the options. If you notice here, if I go to the Fulfillment and drop that down, you'll notice the terminology here has changed. Pending responses is now pending acts, acts meaning acknowledgments. Printed letters is now prepared acknowledgments or prepared acts. Pending orders remains unchanged. However, pulled orders is now prepared orders. Note that while the names of the links have changed, the functionality has not changed, so everything will operate as you're typically used to. We just wanted to make sure that, that the terminology for the menu options more accurately reflect the functionality of itself. Moving on to the report section, we've added a new option that allows you to suppress the description page that typically appears at the end of any report. This will allow you to say paper for one, but also just to make the report a little bit shorter. So if I go to reports and select on any report, you'll know a new option here that says do not append report description. If you check that off, that'll make sure that that page is automatically suppressed for you. Again, that option appears on every report within Bernard. Additionally, we've made a change to the partners, or in the demo database here, donor section reports to categorize the reports into their respective subcategories. So for example, we've moved several of the reports, change history review, donor flag count, and so on into administrative, another subcategory is new name, and then a new category called revenue. So all the same reports still exist, we just simply categorize them for you to make them more easily to find. That was done because the amount of reports that we currently have is growing so much, we want to make it more accessible, more easily for you to get to those particular reports. Another change that's occurred relates to the inventory reports. If you select any inventory report within the system, you notice a new option here to where you can select the warehouse. The default is to include all of them, or you can select an individual warehouse that you want to include for a particular report, again specifically related to inventory reports. Finally, another change that's occurred for the particular report, itemized donation receipts, which is available from the partner subcategory of revenue section, itemized donation receipts. If you want your corporate or your organization's logo to appear on those tax receipts, simply send that logo into support@mybernard.com, and that can easily be added to your database. So any future tax receipts that you're generating will automatically have your logo output. A new report has been added to the planned giving section of reports, and the report is called RDD Officer Revenue Goal. This particular report was added to allow you to get a page per RDD that displays the revenue associated with all the assigned partners for that particular RDD for a given month, as well as the revenue goal if one has been assigned. So again, a new report, again from planned giving, RDD Officer Revenue Goal, and from here you can select the year that you want to report on, as well as optionally you can report on all RDDs that you have assigned, or you can specify specifically which ones you want to report on. Another new report that's been added is to the appeal revenue section. This particular report is called Appeal Grouping Monthly Mailings. This particular report provides 12 months of data showing the number of mailed, responses, and revenue for appeals within the grouping option. So you can specify a start date that you want to start reporting, as well as the particular grouping option that you want to report on. Finally, 3 new reports have been added to the pledge section of reports. The first one I want to point out is the pledge credit card expiration report. This will show you a list of all partners whose on-file credit card for a given pledge is expiring within the specified date range. So if I enter in the date range here that I want to report on, that will show you all partners whose credit card will expire within that particular date range. Additionally, a new report that we have is called Pledge Payment Data Review. This particular report will show a list of all partners who have an active pledge with a credit card payment type, or who have the auto payment type selected, and also that there's more information in pledge record that does not match the partner record as respective to the address data itself. So again, you can optionally specify a start and end date for which you want to report on. And then finally, another report that's been created is a pledge created by batch. This report shows a list of all pledges that have been created by batch. So this is just a quick snapshot report to show you for a particular batch. You can also specify which batches are in there. Just a quick QC report to allow you to display that information. There's been a couple changes made to Rapid Entry that I want to point out. One of the changes is that we've created visual indicators in form of the text colors whenever you're doing the advanced searches from within Rapid Entry to indicate if a partner is active or is a prospect record. So if I go into the advanced search dialog and I'll just key in something like T. Smith, for example, and click search, you'll notice that 2 records are returned. The Thomas Smith is noted in green, Tony Smith is in black, indicating that that's an active record. So Tony Smith being a prospect record, again the Thomas Smith being the prospect record, Tony Smith being the active record. So just a nice visual indicator so that you know right away which one is an active record versus which is a prospect. You can now define alert messages to standard flags just like you can on custom flags. So this is useful for if I key in a new partner record into Rapid Entry or on the web, that it'll alert me with some indicator, whatever the message may be. So for example, if I key in this indicator, I know that this particular partner is marked with the Prevent Merge standard flag. So once I key that in and navigate off, that'll automatically pull that up to say Do Not Merge. So it's just a flag that can be, the text can be customized by you, the client, to be whatever you want. But again, it works just like the custom flags do for giving warnings on any flag that may be assigned to that particular donor. Finally, a couple other changes that I want to just mention to you in Rapid Entry relates to authorizing credit cards. Now, if an authorization on a credit card is declined, the operator will be presented with full details and the reason for a particular decline. Also, when entering credit card transactions that are greater than a variable amount, such as say $500, the operator will now be prompted to verify that the amount is correct. That's just to make sure that they didn't inadvertently enter $5,000 instead of $50, for example, and charge the donor an incorrect amount. And finally, we've now required that the payment method in a transaction in Rapid Entry is now a required field. We will default that to cash as a pre-selected as a default method, but you can of course change the default method to whatever you want, be it check, credit card, and so on. So again, that's now a required field. This concludes the webinar for this release. The release is occurring April 24th, beginning our maintenance period at 4:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, going through 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Should you have any questions about the new enhancements that are in Bernard or anything else, please don't hesitate to contact support, and you can reach them at support@mybernard.com or 303-629-2727 option 1. Thank you for your time.